Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of York. My name's Craig Zumbrun and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm your worship associate for this morning's service, which is being presented to you by the worship committee while our minister, Reverend Kristen Green, is away. Please make sure to note important announcements listed on the back of our order of service. Scan the QR codes with your phone for more events, activities, and updates, information for newcomers as well. Following our time for all ages after today's service, our children and youth will be invited to gather downstairs for religious education classes. For families with very young children who'd like to participate in childcare during worship, our nursery is staffed and available downstairs. Whoever you are, whomever you love, we're glad your faith journey has brought you here today. The mission of this congregation is to nurture a loving community, inspire lifelong spiritual and personal growth, and act for a better world. We welcome all of you joining us in person or online. If you're joining us for the first time, we invite you to visit our welcome desk, fill out a newcomer card, or send an email to welcome@uucy.org so that we can get to know you better. Let us now mark this time made sacred by our presence by taking a collective breath. Again, welcome to UUCY.
Let us turn our minds and hearts to the shared time together.
Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility.
Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. As we light the chalice, the symbol of our living tradition here in the sanctuary, you're also invited to light a candle or a chalice of your own if you're joining us remotely. This morning, our words are Building the Possible by Reverend Scott Taylor. May this flame cast its light towards the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we're going, but a place we are creating. A new world is waiting, friends, not to be found, but to be built. May our time together light the way. And now, if you're willing and able, please rise and sing hymn number 1019, Everything Possible, in your teal hymnals.
We're going to start on page 2. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart beats, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some going their own way in time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart beats, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Will be the love you leave behind when you're Hey everyone. Hi. My name is Paula Whithauer. I use she, her pronouns, and I am going to be doing the Time for All Ages today. So if there are any young people who would like to join me here on the carpet, young in body or in spirit, I invite you to join us now. Hi, guys. Hi. Hi, Esme. Okay. Well, it's so nice to see everyone. Today, we are talking about unlocking possibilities. That's what today's service is about. So can any of you here tell me what it means if I say to you something is possible? Do we know what it means when something is possible? Yes? That's right. It means you can do it. If it's possible, you can do it, right? What about if I were to say to you that that's impossible? What would that mean? You can try again. That's right, you can't do it. So if something is impossible, we think that we can't do it. Now, is it always true that things we think are impossible are really impossible? No, sometimes things that seem impossible might be possible. Do we have any ideas or thoughts about things that once upon a time people thought were impossible, but now they are possible? What about flying in an airplane, right? That's right. Once upon a time, people couldn't fly, and somebody thought, let's come up with a way to make that happen, right? Or once upon a time, you couldn't breathe under the water. That's not physically possible to breathe under the water, but then they came up with a way that you could take air with you under the water by thinking differently. So in today's story, we're going to see a kid who likes to tell stories, who's very creative. But they're thinking about what happens if something stands in their way, if they're not able to tell the story the way they want to. What solutions can they find? And our story is called What If? It's by Samantha Berger, and it is illustrated by Mike Curato. What if? So, with a pencil and paper, I write and draw art to create many stories that come from my heart. But what if that pencil one day disappeared? I'd fold up the paper until stories appeared. And what if that paper was no longer there? I'd chisel the table and then carve the chair. And what if there wasn't a chair here at all? Well, I'd chip and I'd peel at the paint on the wall. And what if there wasn't a wall anymore? I might build a story from boards in the floor. Without any floor, I could still use the land and sketch out a tale in the dirt with my hand. I could still shape the leaves. I could still sculpt the snow. I could still plant the flowers and make kingdoms grow. Without any land, I would still use the light, invent shadow stories that the sun would ignite. If there was no light, I would still use my voice to sing out my stories, to chant and rejoice. I'd still have my body to twist and to bend, to dance out my stories, beginning to end. If I had nothing but still had my mind, there'd always be stories to seek and to find. If I know nothing but one bit of fate, as long as I live, I will always create. As long as I live, I will always create. The end. Thank you all for joining me. This is a good opportunity to think about what is possible. We're looking for ways to unlock possibilities. We'll sing you down to your RE classes for the day. Daniel?
In our service each week, we call Matters of the Heart. This is a time to share the joys and sorrows, the small moments of happiness, and the deepening concerns that reside within our hearts. You may always choose to submit something for Matters of the Heart anytime during the week by visiting uucy.org/moth, M-O-T-H. Or you may fill out a slip of paper Sunday mornings and set it up front here at the pulpit before we start the service. We will also read Matters of the Heart submitted in the Zoom chat by those who are joining us online. Robert, do we have Zoom chat to read? We have none, so we'll proceed. We light a candle of appreciation for the many hands and hearts who offer their services. As we learn their names and faces, we extend our own gratitude to Steve for greeting us at the door, for Julie for providing the beautiful flowers, for Sandy and Steve for serving as ushers, for Sherry and Connie for counting our collection, for Carla and Tess for brewing our coffee, and I think Marta was also very much involved in the kitchen this morning. For Charlie and Robert for keeping us online all over the world. We also take this moment to recognize the countless non-financial contributions that keep our congregation going. Each of us contributes to our congregation just by being here, by bringing your joy and your struggles, your questions, and your faith. May all those who labor remain unnamed, feel held by our expansive gratitude, and forgive us for our omissions. May we increase our awareness of all invisible ways we share in this sacred work. We'll light one final candle this morning for all that remains unspoken within our hearts. If you feel it's too large or too small to share, or you might not be ready to have it read aloud and to hear it, please know that our community holds these with you in silence, even if the words never come. We honor all that we carry within us and know that the flame of our faith kindled here resides within us also at all times. So may it ever be.
Today's first reading is called Putting the Pieces Together by Amanda Poppy. Life has often felt to me like a jigsaw puzzle, or really like the mess of pieces when you first dump out the box. I've learned to stay present to the slow work of sorting, and for that, I need the reminder of my jigsaw puzzles. The just world that seems totally out of grasp until, little by little, advances are made. The mess of a life that appears to have no resolution until, little by little, a new possibility of healing emerges. The path forward that's unimaginable until it's not. So I'll keep sorting and finding the corners and waiting for the picture to emerge. Today's second reading are the words of the poet Linda Paston. You tell me to live each day as if it were my last. But why the last, I ask? Why not live each day as if it were the first? All raw astonishment, Eve rubbing her eyes awake that first morning. May we, like Eve, shake the dullness from our eyes and be thrown to our knees by all that is offered, all that is possible, all that is waiting for us to notice it on this astonishingly new day.
This morning marks 1 week following Easter. We now move into what is known as Eastertide, a time for practicing resurrection to live more fully into our lives. I believe Jesus' story provides a blueprint for humanity, one that cannot be readily accessed through the intellect, but rather through the human spirit and heart. He said, "Watch me. I will be betrayed, abandoned, denied, shamed, ridiculed, and unjustly tried and condemned, and yet my spirit will rise." In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, he states that many rose that day and appeared in the city. Jesus was not a one-off. This story of spirit rising has been repeated down through the centuries all over the world. It is echoed in the words of Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. We only need to open our eyes to the natural world, which splendidly illustrates that renewal is present and available. Engaging the practice of resurrection allows new beginnings, personal transformation, and the opportunity to contribute to this wobbly world in a meaningful way. It is a worthwhile endeavor, and now more than ever, a fitting time to unlock possibilities. So what does possibility mean? To sum it up in one sentence, it is the life-giving truth that our story is not finished. The word possibility comes from the Latin root posse, meaning to have power. Reverend Scott Taylor mentions embracing possibility is not just about believing in something can happen or having faith. It is about being empowered and gathering power to navigate our lives. Our children's story this morning, What If, beautifully speaks to the power that resides within to realize our inner agency, to create, imagine, and to muster sheer determination to realize our dreams. When faced with the impossible, it may just be the right time to go on a walkabout, written so eloquently by Joseph Campbell's hero story. We must shake the dullness from our eyes and open to what is waiting for us. Success or failure is not necessarily the end point. It is the process of the journey and returning with new revelations, capabilities, and gifts to share. The key is embracing our vision and having a little willingness to lean into life with a dose of effort, consistency, and discipline. It is truly a spiritual practice. When roadblocks and setbacks arise, perhaps we can use these moments as opportunities for wonderment. Magician Ricky Lockey says, "Curiosity is like a compass and can guide us through the unexpected." Many of us have attended magic shows, right? We sit as observers in the audience, expecting to be challenged by the possible. Yet we anticipate wonder. The magician will invite someone from the audience to come to the stage, then ask the person to part with something of value, usually a wallet, a ring, a phone, which then he locks away. In that moment, there is a remarkable sense of trust in surrendering something of value to move the magic act forward. As the scene unfolds, we are distracted by the magician's antics, with the participant is often given some sort of task to do, to figure things out. Our attention is focused, and curiosity arises. Neuroscience tells us that curiosity releases dopamine, a feel-good hormone that aids in problem solving. Now, as the climax nears, the magician asks the participant, have they decided on the correct object to unlock the box? The magician may try to instill doubt in the participant and will ask for audience input. But in the end, the participant is generally confident that they have selected the appropriate word or object to open the box. And then the final moment arrives, and lo and behold, the box opens. He has selected appropriately. The audience breaks out in applause. Why can't we translate this same approach as in the magic act into our life? Curiosity is free and can lead us to extraordinary places. Life rarely goes as planned, and uncertainty is ever present. When things seem impossible, it might actually be an invitation for something extraordinary to occur. The choice is ours. We can panic, withdraw, give up, or we can lean into curiosity and join in the act of creating a little magic in our lives. I would like to lift up a personal story with impossibility from an earlier chapter in my life. As the eldest of 5 siblings in a blue-collar working-class family, the idea of attending college seemed out of reach. Yet I felt a relentless inner prompting to pursue a college education. When I told my parents, they dismissed the idea, saying it was a waste of time for girls and that I should not expect any help from them. I could have accepted their view, but something inside me saw another path. I filled out the applications, applied for need-based scholarships, and with the help of a friend's parents, succeeded in getting into college. On the day I was to leave, my parents refused to drive me. But once again, another friends of mine stepped in. I worked 20 to 25 hours a week while taking the requisite academic load in nursing, worked 2 full-time jobs during the summer and holiday breaks, and because I didn't own a car, I walked to and from my jobs. During the 4 years, my parents never once dropped me off or picked me up from college. They did not attend my graduation. I learned from this experience that a possibility mindset shifts our focus from limitation to invitation. It does not deny hardship. It refuses to let hardship have the last word. It teaches us to notice openings, new paths, supports, and practices, even in the face of challenges. Courage is rarely a lightning bolt. It is more often a series of small choices made with care. Unitarian Universalists don't usually claim that the universe guarantees happy endings. We don't promise that everything happens for a reason, or our faith is a magic key that unlocks pain-free living or dissolves our trials. But we do trust in the sacred work of becoming. dreaming what is not yet, making a plan for what could be, listening to the critic who helps us tell the truth, and then beginning again. Dreamer, realist, challenger, until love takes a shape that we can hold. And we trust this too. Human beings and community can widen what is possible. Grounded in compassion, guided by truth-telling, strengthened by the stubborn refusal to let go of the possible. When we say the impossible, we may mean different things. Sometimes it's the private impossible, grief that will not loosen its grip, an addiction that keeps returning, a relationship that feels beyond repair, a diagnosis that changes everything. Sometimes it's the public impossible, a society so polarized we can't imagine trust again, a planet warming so fast we can't picture a livable future. Systems so entrenched we wonder if justice is anything more than a word. The impossible has many names, but it also has a common strategy. It tries to shrink our imagination until we confuse hard with hopeless. And when the stakes are high, when the private impossible presses close, or the public impossible fills the horizon, what helps to keep the imagination alive? One answer is to listen to prophetic voices, people who stood at the edge of what their time called realistic and spoke anyway, insisting that moral possibility is not the same thing as convenience. Their words are not charms, they are tools. Hammers for breaking despair, lanterns for finding the next step, and mirrors that ask us who we are becoming. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is often quoted for the line, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." That phrase can be misheard as passive optimism, like the arc bends all by itself. But King never meant weight, he meant work. The arc bends because hands bend it, hands linked in marches and mutual aid, hands writing postcards, laws, and changing hearts, hands steadying one another when fear says you can't. In a UU frame, this is one of our deepest spiritual practices, to refuse the idol of inevitability, to say history is not fate, to say my life is not over because this chapter is hard, to say my community is powerless because the problem is big. We don't overcome impossible by convincing ourselves it isn't real. We overcome it by taking reality seriously and by choosing love as our guide to engage the hard truths. Frederick Douglass, who escaped slavery and became one of the great truth tellers of this nation, put it plainly: power concedes nothing without a demand. That is not cynicism, it is clarity. Douglass reminds us that some impossibilities are maintained by someone's profit, someone's comfort, someone's silence. And so overcoming the impossible sometimes requires more than personal resilience. It requires moral pressure, organized, persistent, strategic. Unitarian Universalism calls us to covenant, not just what we believe, but how we promise to live with and for one another. Douglass's demand can be a demand we make of our institutions, and also a demand we make of ourselves. Where have I accepted the unacceptable because it felt too complicated to challenge? Where have we confused politeness with peace? Overcoming the impossible often begins when we tell the truth out loud together. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years imprisoned by apartheid, a sentence designed to convince him that change was impossible. After his release, he carried a truth that still startles. He said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Mandela doesn't deny how long the night can be. He teaches that the impossible often survives by making us think that time is on its side. But history keeps surprising the ones who believe they can wait it out. It always seems impossible until it's done. That's what Mandela said. He teaches that the impossible often survives by making us think that time is on its side, but history keeps surprising the ones who believe they cannot wait it out. For us who feel public impossible most sharply in the climate crisis, I think of Rachel Carson, whose prophetic work helped birth modern environmental consciousness. She wrote, "In nature, nothing exists alone." That sentence is both science and sermon. If nothing exists alone, then no suffering exists alone either. The way we treat the earth returns to us, and the way we heal the earth through policy, innovation, and daily choices also heals something in the human spirit, our capacity for responsibility. When impossibility makes our bodies clench, when we doom scroll, when we freeze, when we lash out, Thich Nhat Hanh offers a different kind of courage. He taught that peace is not just a destination, but a practice. Something like learning to breathe without abandoning the world. Overcoming the impossible is not about giant leaps. It is also about returning again and again to the present moment where the next wise action actually lives. I share here the teachings of Caroline Myss, a contemporary teacher and mystic who speaks about what she calls symbolic sight, the practice of noticing the deeper patterns shaping our lives and then choosing to respond with integrity. One of her recurring themes is that personal power leaks away when we live only from the story of what happened to us, rather than from the values we choose now. In other words, part of overcoming impossible is reclaiming the authority to say, "This will not be the only narrative of my life." Read through a UU lens, we can take Myss's invitation as spiritual realism. Name the truth without flinching. Include the ways fear and old wounds run our choices. Widen the story of remembering our agency, our supports, and the larger meaning we want to serve. And then work, not perfectly, but faithfully toward the life we are called to live. The impossible doesn't disappear because we wish it away. It loosens when we stop feeding it our energy and start feeding our values instead. Rabbi Abraham Herschel, who marched at Selma, famously said that when he marched, he felt as if he was praying with his feet. That is a prophetic image. Spirituality that does not float above reality, but walks right into it. Sometimes our prayer is silence, sometimes it is song, sometimes it is showing up for school board meetings, sometimes delivering groceries, calling a legislator. The impossible yields slowly, unevenly, when spirit becomes embodied. So let me offer a simple UU practice for overcoming the impossible, one you can carry into your week. 3 movements: name it, widen it, walk it. First, name it. Say the truth without exaggeration and without minimization. This is what is happening. This is what I feel. This is what I need. Naming breaks the spell of vague dread and turns fear into information. Second, widen it. Ask what possibilities still exist with this situation. Who has walked something like this before? What resources, people, skills, community, professional help, spiritual practice have I not yet used? The impossible shrinks when we stop carrying it alone. Third, walk it. Choose one next faithful action, not the whole staircase, just the next step. Send an email, make an appointment, apologize, set a boundary, volunteer, donate, vote, rest. The impossible often survives because it convinces us that we can't do everything, so we should do nothing. If you are willing, take a quiet breath now and recall one impossible you are carrying. Don't pick the biggest one. Pick the one that is most present. Now, gently, can you name it in one honest sentence? Can you widen it by naming one person or practice that could help? Can you walk it by choosing one next step that is small enough to do this week? Earlier, I talked about the magician's invitation into curiosity and highlighted Disney's trio of dreamers, realist, and critic. What if our spiritual life asked us to do the same? Dream boldly, because imagination is a moral act. Plan realistically, because love without structure burns out. Listen to the critic, because humility keeps us honest, but don't let it drive the bus. The critic's job is to refine, the dreamer's job is to design, the realist's job is to carry it forward. May we be a people who bend the arc with our hands and hearts. May we make the demand that love requires. May we outlast the systems that tell us nothing can change. And may we remember, like Carson, that nothing exists alone. So none of us must face our impossible alone. Much like piecing together a jigsaw puzzle, our lives can be messy and seem out of reach, yet, little by little, we make progress. The path forward can seem unimaginable until it isn't. Go in peace this morning. Go in courage, praying with your feet and widening what is possible. May it be so. And now we rise and join in singing our hymn to
We now invite you into generosity as we collect our weekly offering. Each week we commit to share our offering with a community organization that upholds our values. Our Share the Plate partner for the month of April is the YWCA York's Race Against Racism. Each year, YWCA York brings the community together in solidarity for equality, inclusion, and justice for all in the form of a 5K run, race, walk, or stroll. Proceeds support YWCA York's mission of advancing racial justice in York County. The Racial Justice Program strives to transform social inequities in our community, schools, and organizations through education, open dialogue, and inviting others to join us as anti-racist allies. The ushers will now collect the offering. If this is your first time visiting with us, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. Your presence is a gift. Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices if you've lit them with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Can you still hear the song, the one sung for you when you were born? Listen carefully. Can you still hear it? A song of possibility, a reminder that we still have time to be who and what we need to be. We'd like you as a congregation to join us in our sending song this morning, the one that we opened with, the worship team opened with, Be Open. So I'm going to invite Jane and Paula and Craig and Robert, maybe? Okay, forward, and we're going to sing it together.